Napoleon Bonaparte, the rise, reign, and fall of an emperor. Few figures in world history have shaped Europe as dramatically as Napoleon Bonaparte. Soldier, revolutionary, emperor, reformer, and exile, his life was a saga of ambition, genius, and controversy. Rising from modest beginnings in Corsica to become Emperor of the French, Napoleon transformed the political landscape of Europe and left a legacy that still influences law, government, and military strategy today. Early life in Corsica, 1769–1785. Napoleon Bonaparte was born on August 15, 1769, in Ajaccio, on the island of Corsica. The island had recently been transferred from Genoese to French control, and the tension between Corsican nationalism and French authority shaped Napoleon's early identity. His father, Carlo Buonaparte, was a lawyer and minor noble who supported Corsican resistance leader Pasquale Paoli before later aligning with the French regime. Napoleon's mother, Letizia Ramolino, was known for her discipline and strength, traits that deeply influenced her son. At age 9, Napoleon was sent to mainland France to receive a military education. He studied at Brienne-le-Château and later at the prestigious École Militaire in Paris. Though mocked for his Corsican accent and modest means, Napoleon excelled in mathematics and artillery science. At 16, he graduated as a second lieutenant in the French army. The French Revolution and early military success, 1789–1799. The outbreak of the French Revolution in 1789 radically changed France, and Napoleon's destiny. The revolution dismantled aristocratic privilege, creating opportunities for talented young officers. Napoleon's first major success came in 1793 at the Siege of Toulon, where he helped recapture the city from royalists supported by Britain. His strategic use of artillery earned him national attention and promotion. In 1795, he famously defended the revolutionary government against royalist insurgents in Paris using what he described as a whiff of grapeshot. This decisive action secured his reputation and led to command of the Army of Italy. The Italian Campaign. From 1796 to 1797, Napoleon led French forces in a stunning campaign against Austria in northern Italy. Despite commanding poorly supplied troops, he defeated larger Austrian armies through speed, bold tactics, and psychological warfare. His victories culminated in the Treaty of Campo Formio, which expanded French influence in Europe. Napoleon became a national hero. Newspapers glorified him, and he skillfully cultivated his public image. The Egyptian expedition. In 1798, Napoleon launched an ambitious expedition to Egypt, aiming to disrupt British trade routes to India. Though he won the Battle of the Pyramids, the British Navy under Horatio Nelson destroyed the French fleet at the Battle of the Nile, isolating his army. Though militarily inconclusive, the Egyptian campaign contributed to scientific discoveries, including the Rosetta Stone. Napoleon quietly returned to France in 1799 as political instability created an opportunity. The coup of 18 Brumaire and rise to power, 1799. France in 1799 was governed by the weak Directory. Political corruption and military challenges created widespread dissatisfaction. Sensing opportunity, Napoleon joined a conspiracy and carried out a coup d'état on November 9, 1799, 18 Brumaire in the revolutionary calendar. He established the consulate and became first consul, effectively the ruler of France. First consul and reforms, 1799–1804. As first consul, Napoleon introduced sweeping reforms. The Napoleonic Code. In 1804, he established the Civil Code, commonly known as the Napoleonic Code. It standardized French law, guaranteed equality before the law, protected property rights, and ended feudal privileges. This legal framework influenced many countries worldwide. Administrative and educational reforms. Napoleon centralized government administration, reformed taxation, and founded the Bank of France. He created lycées, secondary schools, to train civil servants and officers, ensuring loyalty to the state. Religious settlement. Through the Concordat of 1801, Napoleon reconciled France with the Catholic Church while maintaining state authority over religious matters. These reforms brought stability after years of revolutionary chaos. Emperor of the French, 1804. On December 2, 1804, In Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, Napoleon crowned himself emperor in the presence of Pope Pius VII. By placing the crown on his own head, he symbolized that his authority came from himself, not the Church. The French Republic had transformed into the First French Empire. The Napoleonic Wars 1803–1815. Napoleon's reign was defined by nearly constant warfare across Europe. Against Austria and Russia. In 1805, Napoleon faced a coalition of Austria, Russia, and Britain. At the Battle of Austerlitz, often called his greatest victory, he decisively defeated Austrian and Russian forces. Conflict with Britain. Though dominant on land, Napoleon could not defeat Britain at sea. The British victory at the Battle of Trafalgar 1805, again led by Horatio Nelson, secured British naval supremacy. Unable to invade Britain, Napoleon imposed the Continental System, a blockade aimed at crippling British trade. However, it strained European economies and weakened alliances. Expansion across Europe. At the height of his power, Napoleon controlled or influenced much of continental Europe. He placed family members on European thrones, including Spain and Naples. His empire stretched from Spain to Poland. The Peninsular War 1808–1814. Napoleon's decision to install his brother Joseph as King of Spain sparked rebellion. Spanish guerrilla fighters, supported by Britain under the Duke of Wellington, waged a brutal resistance. The Peninsular War drained French resources and morale. It marked the beginning of the empire's slow unraveling. The invasion of Russia 1812. In 1812, Napoleon launched his most disastrous campaign, the invasion of Russia. After Tsar Alexander I withdrew from the continental system, Napoleon assembled a massive army of over 600,000 men. The Russians retreated, employing scorched earth tactics. Napoleon captured Moscow, but the city was abandoned and largely burned. With winter approaching and supplies dwindling, he ordered a retreat. The retreat from Moscow was catastrophic. Harsh winter, starvation, and Russian attacks reduced the Grand Army to a fraction of its original strength. The invasion marked a turning point in Napoleon's fortunes. Defeat and first exile 1814. Following the Russian disaster, European powers formed a new coalition. In 1814, Allied forces captured Paris. Napoleon abdicated and was exiled to the island of Elba, off the coast of Italy. Though allowed to retain the title of emperor, his power was limited to the small island. The Hundred Days in Waterloo 1815. In February 1815, Napoleon escaped Elba and returned to France. Soldiers sent to arrest him instead joined his cause. He regained power in a period known as the Hundred Days. European powers quickly united against him. On June 18, 1815, Napoleon faced British and Prussian forces at the Battle of Waterloo in Belgium. The British army was led by Arthur Wellesley, 1st Duke of Wellington. After a day of intense fighting and the arrival of Prussian reinforcements, Napoleon was defeated. Waterloo ended his rule permanently. Final exile and death 1815–1821. Napoleon surrendered to the British and was exiled to the remote island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic. There, under British supervision, he lived in relative isolation. He dictated memoirs, reflecting on his life and defending his legacy. On May 5, 1821, Napoleon died at age 51, likely from stomach cancer. Napoleon's personality and leadership. Napoleon combined intelligence, charisma, ambition, and relentless energy. He had an extraordinary memory, worked long hours, and demanded excellence from his officers. He inspired fierce loyalty in his troops. His military tactics, emphasizing mobility, concentration of force, and decisive engagement, are still studied in military academies. However, his ambition also led to overreach. His authoritarian rule, censorship, and costly wars caused immense suffering. The Napoleonic legacy. Napoleon's impact extends far beyond his lifetime. Legal and political influence. The Napoleonic Code shaped legal systems in Europe, Latin America, and parts of Africa. His administrative reforms modernized governance. Nationalism. Ironically, while spreading French influence, Napoleon sparked nationalist movements in Germany, Italy, and Spain. These movements later reshaped Europe. Military innovation. Napoleon revolutionized warfare with corps organization, rapid maneuver, and mass conscription. Cultural image. Napoleon remains a powerful symbol, depicted as both hero and tyrant. Writers, historians, and artists continue to debate his character. Napoleon and Josephine Bonaparte. Napoleon married Joséphine de Beauharnais in 1796. Their relationship was passionate but troubled. Although he deeply loved her, they divorced in 1810 because she failed to produce a male heir. He later married Archduchess Marie-Louise of Austria, who bore him a son, Napoleon II. Conclusion. Napoleon Bonaparte's life was extraordinary, a meteoric rise from provincial officer to emperor, followed by dramatic downfall. He was a product of the revolution yet ultimately crowned himself monarch. He brought order to chaos, reformed institutions, and reshaped Europe, but also led devastating wars that cost millions of lives. His story is one of brilliance and ambition, triumph and tragedy. Even 2 centuries after his death, Napoleon remains one of history's most fascinating and controversial figures, an emperor who rose from revolution and whose shadow still stretches across Europe and the modern world.